love it. I love it. Hey, guys. Welcome to the Work and Play replay. We got the one, the only Jasmine Ohen in the house.
Yes.
I'm so excited for this one. The energy is about to be off on 10.
Is it echoing at all?
So it might be echoing on your side. If you want to turn down one of your speakers, that might be better because I have my headphones plugged in.
Okay, perfect. It's fine. I wanted to make sure it's not echoing on yours.
Perfect. Now, every time we get on the phone, I'll be like, 15 minutes, but it turned into like a good, like, so I know this is about to be a good conversation. You guys hang tight. For those of you guys who have not seen episode 100 of the Work and Play podcast, this is Miss Jasmine Ohen. Now on the podcast,
my husband,
Ohen. Thank you. I'm glad you got me correct. Ohen.
Yeah,
and those of you guys
Ohen, like, oh hey girl, it's like Ohen.
Hennessy.
Yeah. So I'm like, whatever makes it stick. Right. I think people always say Owen because they think like O-H is that O sound, and they'll just say Owen.
Exactly. And that's where I was thinking. I was like, let me make it fancy.
No, yeah, Ohen. It's Nigerian, Igbo. So.
Oh, thank you. Okay, sis, we're going to get it together. Don't you guys like it when we get a good lesson? We can even talk about that, but that's not what we're here for. But I will say I appreciate you with correcting me, because when people walk around on this earth and they don't speak up for themselves on how they should be, like, they should be approached, addressed, it's like you kind of dim your own light. And that's not what we get from Jasmine at all. No.
Honey, I'm gonna shine on everybody.
Nice. So let's get into it. Those of y'all who have not seen episode 100, first of all, Jasmine started in nonprofit, right?
Yes.
And she left the nonprofit world to become a coach. Now, when we first met, we met in a group of 100 or 500 or so entrepreneurs, and the word social entrepreneur connected us. Right? Like, we were already in groups, already in our mentorship groups and things like that. But when I heard what Jasmine does, I was like, that's literally everything that I've been reading about. Because I've been doing all this research and reading on social entrepreneurship and how you can mix mission-driven work, impact, and entrepreneurship all in one. So without further ado, I can talk about you all day and how I met you and why you're so wonderful. Somebody said in my comments, the boss, Jasmine. I said, oh, yes. Why don't you introduce yourself to the folks so that we can get into it?
Yes. So my name is Jasmine Ohen. I am high spirited. I am a woman of God. I am a vessel willing to be used, and I am a social entrepreneur. So what that looks like in my life, so funny. So I did start in the nonprofit space, right? And I left, but I didn't leave because I have a nonprofit and I get to mentor teenage girls of color, 16 through 18, and help them become these confident, courageous leaders through character development programs and mental health programs. And I love doing that. We are about to pilot our first program here in Dallas. We started in San Francisco and impacted like nationally over like 400 young women and girls, giving them therapy, resources, community, sisterhood. And we are piloting our first program here in Dallas with the partnership with the Boys and Girls Club. And it's going to be amazing what those girls are going to get. And I get to coach. And help so many women. Because, let me give a little switcheroo. Okay, so I started off as a nonprofit startup coach, which has been amazing. I've been able to help so many people start these life-giving nonprofits, and I love that. And in the interim of doing that, the market just continues to like tell you what they need as you expand. Okay. And as I've been expanding, my skill set has gotten sharper. I've gotten more confidence in myself, truly. I really feel like God was like, okay, so back in 2020, the Lord was like, I need you to write business and purpose coach down in your journal. So I wrote it down, closed it, prayed over it. Yeah. And then as I've been walking through my journey in coaching and consulting, because I started my nonprofit in 2019, but as I've been, so my entrepreneurship journey started then, but as I've been walking in a different space, that's not just nonprofit, but for profit as well, the thing that I always would tell my clients was, I will give you for-profit strategies that result in nonprofit impact. So my heart has always been to help people build their businesses, but not just people, it's like women. And women come to me all the time. And then I just felt like the Lord was like, it's time. It's time to shift and expand your consulting and your brand as a whole. So I am a business and purpose coach. And yes. And
come on, listening to the calling. Listen.
And I get to help professional women of faith walk boldly in their purpose through entrepreneurship. And I'm so happy because it's so in alignment with like so many things God has been doing in my life, especially like what I journaled in January. And I was just like, Lord, this is how I see the year going. God has done that, but not the way I thought it would be packaged. And he has essentially given me the deepest desires of my heart. I have a desire to be a public speaker, to be an boss entrepreneur, and to be a philanthropist. Tell me why. I am speaking at a women's conference here this weekend here in Dallas.
Congratulations. Tell us more.
Yes, it's Women's Leadership Summit. I am one of the keynote panelists. We are closing out the conference, me and two other boss women. One of the moderators is my sister. She is amazing, Jessica. She is amazing. And I'm just so fortunate to do that. It's a room full of over like 200 women. These women are, girl, guess Donna Richardson Joyner. Tom Joyner's wife is going to be there.
Talk about it. So how did this opportunity come about?
Honestly, the Lord, for real.
Yeah. Like, now seriously, it's not a joke. Like when we realize like how things just come about and people say like, oh, it wasn't nothing but Jesus and wasn't nothing but God, you be like, I actually understand.
No, like for real. And the Bible has says faith without works is dead. And also like with man, it's impossible. With God, all things are possible. Mm-hmm. I have been asked several times to speak, but my desire had been to be on a main stage with like in a space with women that I don't have to like search for these things, right? Mm-hmm. There are so many women that need something, but how can I find these women? I didn't know how to find these women. But God, I got selected to be a part of this cohort here in Dallas called Black Women in Nonprofit Leadership. It's amazing by my mentor, Erica. She's amazing. And it's like 32 of us have been like personally selected. And in that cohort, you connect with these women. They're high-level CEOs or execs, like killing it, Black women in the nonprofit space. And like we connect as sisters for real. And from that connection, my mentor dropped my name in a hat, like kind of just saying, oh yeah, she does nonprofit startup things. And that connected where my other sister in my cohort remembered that. And I sent her some information about me. They loved it. And at first it was going to be, I was going to teach a workshop. Mm-hmm. So it was going to be great. I was going to teach a workshop and be a part of the experience still.
What would the workshop have been on?
Entrepreneurship, or nonprofit startup. But then they scratched that. And then she calls me one day and she's like, okay, I got some bad news. I'm like, oh man. She's like, no, it's good. They actually want you to be a keynote panelist. You with two other women. And then I was blown away, right? So this is a great opportunity because it opens me up to keynote speaking. And the cohort I'm a part of, at the end of the year, we give like TEDx kind of talks. And they prepare us to give TED Talks. So that's what I'm in the process of doing at the end of the year, as well as all of us are co-authors in a book about Black women in nonprofit leadership and what that looks like to be in leadership as a Black woman. So then we're co-authoring this book that will be published next year. So honey, you can add author to that.
I love it. And those of y'all who are watching the amazing like boss work that you're doing paired with your personality is sick. It's just sick. So since typically I wanted to like back into like your nonprofit work, but we're already here. What does it feel like to be manifesting, like living in the manifestation as it happens? What does that feel like?
Surreal, as well as I'm not surprised, because when you're really in tune with God, and I made the commitment back in 2018 that, Jesus, no matter what, I'm going to be for you, and I'm not going to be wavering on either side. I'm going to be rooted in your word and in your promises and who you are. And God will give you little glimpses of who he's calling you to be. He'll give you little windows and then pull it back. So I am so grateful, and I'm also not shocked, because in the process of God maturing me, growing me, deepening my roots in him, he has also given me glimpses of the mountaintop, and then will take me back into development. And I feel like I'm in the season of things that I was doing in 2019, when I was off of social media for an entire year, to literally just retreat and get to know the Lord deeper and know who he created me to be. And what I was doing in 2019 was what I do now. So it's so, and I was doing that in San Francisco in the Tenderloin.
And the thing about it is like,
that ain't for the faint heart. That ain't for the faint heart.
Listen, I'm thinking about this as you're talking, and how you might have felt in 2019 when you decided to let it go, right? Because so often we are like holding on to opportunities, holding on to the life that we have, afraid to let go, afraid to get off of social media because of X, Y, and Z. And you decided to take that leap, all to find out a year later you're given opportunities that look like what you had in 2019, right? So when you say you had a glimpse of the mountaintop, had a little bit of peak, and then you went back into self-development, what does that process actually look like? Like the tangible process?
Ooh. You know, you're human. So you get disappointed. Dang, God, why you showing me if you gonna take it away? That's how, like,
I already know.
Like, you're human. You are a part of a human experience. So disappointment is there, but God can handle that. As well as you're encouraged as well, because you are reminded there is no way that I got into this room by myself. I got here. So God, you must be doing something. It's just not time yet. And I'm a firm believer that God's timing is way better than mine. I have been asked to do things and been a part of opportunities, and then they've vanished completely in thin air. And the Lord was just telling me, it's not time. It's not time. And in the moment, I processed that, was disappointed, but also encouraged after I allowed that to really not take me to a place of, I'm not called, I'm not chosen, I'm not supposed to do good things. Like, those are lies from the enemy. And you have to like immediately address that and dismantle that and walk into the thing that the Lord has for you. And when you experience that disappointment, don't run from it, because there is literally nowhere in the Bible where Jesus ever rebuked his emotions, ever. Ever. When he was disappointed, when he was actually 24 hours before his crucifixion, he was moved with so much grief and depression that theologians even believe like he was bleeding, like sweating blood. Like, he was so moved with grief and sadness. Like, God, I don't want to do this.
What part of the Bible, you got to catch me up, just for folks who are like me, who need a little bit of the context. What part of the story, and what was Jesus?
Yes. So which scripture? Ooh, do not. Okay, read your whole Bible front to back, and you know, and then you can get it all. But I'm gonna give you a parable. Okay, I'm gonna give you.
Us what you got.
I'm gonna give you a paraphrase. I'm gonna paraphrase it. So
okay,
Google. But it was right in the Garden of Gethsemane. In the Garden of Gethsemane, right before Jesus was crucified, he experienced so much. Like, what he said was, God, if this cup could pass from me, like, I don't want to do this, essentially. But I also know you're telling me to do this. This is my assignment. It needs to be seen into completion. But Lord, if there's another way, please tell me now, because I'll bounce. I'll bounce right now. But, and then what he said is so crucial, which we miss a lot, is he said, but nonetheless, let your will be done. Your will over mine. And he knew what he had to do. And that was so much grief. He had known, head knowledge, what he needed to do, but to experience and be human and experience that emotion, as well as being betrayed by one of his best friends,
right?
Being disappointed, being rejected by his hometown. He experienced all of his emotions fully, but what we saw him often do was retreat. And we don't often do that when we're disappointed. We call our mama, we call our best friend.
We go harder.
We go harder. We join more groups.
Mhm.
We try to put on a facade.
Like you said, we do everything in our head knowledge that tells us what we should do when we don't even know half of what we could be doing or what's already happening for us. You reminded me of an article that I literally read today on trusting the process, and like how when you trust the process, you become more grateful. When you trust the process, you become more calm. Like you don't have that anxiety, you don't have that stress because you're able to like understand that this is not your story. Like this is you don't have the head knowledge to get through whatever you're experiencing. So you got to give
Yes.
it up to God.
And it's really interesting because I don't know what this black and white way of thinking that the world has taught us is that it's all good and it's all bad.
Mm.
If I'm having a lot of good things happen in my life, nothing bad can be happening. Nothing that can be growing me, nothing that could be maturing me, none of those things happen. It has to be all good. And when it's bad, it's all bad. Nothing, I can't even find good in my life. But that is never true. You can be walking through one of the most joyous seasons of your life and also one of the toughest seasons at the same time.
Yes.
And that shows us we're alive. That shows us that we're living and we're breathing.
And we're growing.
And you can be experiencing the highest point in your career to date and also struggling with a communication with a parent.
Talk about it, sis. Let's go back to when you were in your 9 to 5, right? Let's go back to when things were shifting in your heart and shifting in your soul, and you're like, hey, my career is fine, but I want to do more. On the podcast, we talked about when you started to heed the call to start your own nonprofit when you were still in the nonprofit. So if we could go back just a little bit and feel free to share a little bit of what you share on the podcast, just about like where you were in your career before you went out to be an entrepreneur. And then what kind of things were shifting in your spirit that told you, okay, I need to either sit down, I need to make a shift so that I can actually become the person I want to be.
Man, okay. It's actually a pretty long. Okay, so I'm gonna try to make this. It was a whole experience. So when I lived in San Francisco, I would catch the train a lot. Or in the Bay Area. I lived in Oakland, but I worked in San Francisco. So I would catch the train a lot. And I was going to pick up a friend from the airport. And earlier that day, I was listening to a sermon from Stephen Furtick and TD Jakes. They were doing like a fireside chat together. Mm-hmm. And something they said that stuck to me, to this day it sticks to me, is that Jesus moved in a rhythm. And he never ran anywhere. He just stayed with a consistent rhythm because he understood the assignment that was on his life. They said some other things, but that really stuck with me was like rhythm. Like that everything happens in rhythm. Time is in a rhythm. A woman being pregnant moves in a rhythm. The baby, if it's born too fast, that's not good. If it's born later, that's not good. But it has to be a good time. So that really stuck with me. So that's important. Whenever I'm at the train station, I know where I'm going, right? I knew I was going to the airport. I had taken this route hundreds of times to pick people up from the airport. So I'm at the train station, but the sign said something completely different. But I knew that name of the train took me to that destination. I knew that, but the sign said something completely different. So the train's just idle. The doors are open, which was strange. That wasn't the normal experience of catching the train in the Bay Area. But it's just sitting there for about 5-6 minutes. So people are going in and out. And I knew, this is the train that goes to the airport. But I kept asking people, is this the train that goes to the airport? I don't know, ma'am. I don't know. Is this the train that goes to the airport? I don't know. Some people are telling me, yeah, no, I don't think it is. It's not. But in my heart, in my head, I knew. And in my heart, I really knew this is the right train. But I was asking everyone to confirm these things that I already knew. I knew where I was going. I had taken this route several times. It was very familiar to me, but I needed everyone to co-sign what I already believed this was the right train. Right. So the moment I sat down, I got up, I said, this is the right train. I know myself. And as soon as I got to the doors closed and the train went away. And as soon as the train went away, the name changed back to SFO Airport. And it said 18 minutes. And I sat down and I said, dang, I knew that was the right train. I don't know, I was asking everybody. And I literally heard the Lord whisper, and that is exactly what your life will look like. Mm-hmm. I'm telling you the destination. I'm giving you a glimpse. It feels familiar. I've taken you this route different ways, but it's been similar. You know what it is, but you are asking everyone to confirm these things in your life. You have to trust me, because you will get there. But if you don't do it in the rhythm I'm telling you to move, it will be delayed. And I got on the train. I was so convicted, and I just was wrestling with this thought. Is this me? Is this me? And when I got back, I said to the Lord, 3 things I needed. I need you to really confirm this in your word. I need you to confirm this with our community. And I need you to confirm this with my husband, because Lord, we live in the Bay Area. We finna go from 2 incomes to 1. Now, this can't be me. This got to be you, Jesus. And God did all of that. And I remember when I came home, I said to my husband, Ricky, I was like, babe, y'all, I'm like standing up, like in the living room, tears in my eyes, like God is calling me to a different place. I am like telling him what I believe the Lord is saying to me. He's sitting in the chair. You know, my husband is very, very calculated. So he's sitting there and he's like, and I just feel like God is calling me to be an entrepreneur, and he's calling me to leave my job right now. And he was like, okay, you know, I see what God's doing in your life. I believe in you. I believe his hand is on you. Let's do it. It'll be tough, but we can do it. And 2 weeks later, and what was crazy was Heal Yourself I just piloted our first program with the Boys and Girls Club of San Francisco. We had just gotten our first partnership with Finish Line. We had just completed our first pilot cohort. I was gearing up to revamp and start the next season of programming with Heal Yourself. And the Lord was like, no, you need to do this. You need to trust me. So then fast forward, the pandemic hit. 2019, we started. The pandemic hit, we all know. But that was so beautiful because it gave us national impact now. Now we were able to touch places I still have never gone. We were able to, I remember one story, a girl said she was battling depression because her brother killed himself, or he died. And during the pandemic and that isolation, she was battling suicidal thoughts. And she was going to move into those thoughts, but then Heal Yourself presented itself to her. And these healing rooms were happening every month, these worship experiences for women to come together and not have the traditional just raise our hands and worship with music, but understand that worship is a heart posture. That is how I live my life. And we talked and had different panels and discussions and sisterhood moments that she wrote that saved her life, as well as we had the opportunity for a few women to get free therapy for a few months. And she was one of the women that got awarded that. And it just changed her life. And I just think if I wouldn't have stepped out, you know what also switched to? I remember it was my bachelorette party. I was in LA. And I just feel like when I'm in LA, my soul just comes alive. So I was in LA and
you don't even strike me as an LA girl. But
where do I strike you, girl? Where should I be?
I can only imagine that you are turned up in Dallas, like just ball of fire. I don't know. You definitely seem like an Atlanta chick. But LA, they can't handle you. I just imagine. I don't know what I imagine, but hey.
So I'm hyped. It's funny because I'm hiking up Runyon, and I remember the thought I said to myself is, who makes people who they are? So I was really thinking on Jackie Ina. So she's a beauty blogger. And I thought, who told Jackie who gave her authority to just start doing makeup on YouTube? Like, who gave her access or gave her permission? She just took it. She saw a space. She saw there wasn't what she wanted. She saw there was misrepresentation and there was a lack of representation. And she just gave herself permission. And I asked myself when I was hiking, I was like, what am I not giving myself permission to do? And I asked my question this because I was talking to some of the women and I said, what is something you would do in your life if failure was not an option? Like if failure wasn't even in your mind, what is something you would do? And everybody just started dreaming. One of the women said she would start a beauty supply chain, and she would start it in Austin and go. Another one, she would be a screenwriter and she would produce movies, and everyone just was dreaming. And then I thought, why are we not doing that?
Yeah.
Why are we always waiting for someone to give us permission? Why are we always waiting for someone to say, okay, you have enough accolades. You've worked enough. You got enough experience under your belt. Go do it. What would happen if I just said, I'm going to do it? And y'all going to see that I'm great. Y'all going to see that this is actually something I'm gifted in. You don't have to tell me. I'm taking it. I'm taking what's mine. I'm taking back what was mine anyways.
Yeah.
So I believe like God started to each year by year just develop things in my heart, soften my heart, that when he said move in obedience, that I wasn't as fearful as I would have been 2 years prior. I felt bold enough to do that. And when the troubles arise, because they do, the challenges arise, it's a slow moving needle. I knew where my value came from, that I wasn't distraught in the process of, because you deal with the mental battles of, am I called to do this? Will anybody listen to me? Will anybody take me seriously? Those things. But I knew where to go with those things. I didn't just go to a space of calling everyone, please, you guys, speak life into me. I did that after I went to the cross. Lord, tell me who I am. I would sit in my closet sometimes and cry and just literally, I remember being on my knees in my closet. I would have the imprint of the carpet like dug into my knees. And I would just be there journaling and sitting in silence. And I said, you know what's crazy, God? Nobody will ever see these moments. Nobody will ever see these intimate moments I have with you. This is where the foundation is built. So when people see things that are happening and it looks like, man, Jasmine, things are always going in favor of you. Like, y'all don't see the moments. I'd be pressed in. Okay.
And praying.
Yeah.
And as you talk about trusting the process, and you might have just mentioned it, but the words faith without works is dead. Right? It's really not a cliche, but you're talking about the walk of faith. You're really describing the walk of faith, especially when things don't look like they're happening the way you want them to happen, especially when you have the head knowledge of what you think should be happening, and you're literally going back to your prayer room and doing the things, right? Even when nobody sees you, right? So faith without works is dead, right? But then you're right. Nobody sees that, like that prayer side of you. No one knows as much faith that's behind you. You did have that like knowledge in the industry that was telling you also that you could do this, right? Like you said, the skill set. I have this skill set and I'm going to jump out there. So what was it in your mind? What was the seed that was planted about you starting your own nonprofit, or even you being a nonprofit coach, that specifically said, we can do good work and we can make profit off of it? Because you had been like raised, so to speak, right, as a nonprofit, like with the nonprofit mindset. And for those of you guys who are not familiar with that nonprofit mindset, there are so many different trains of thought, but it's just, I would say, and you can also disagree if you don't agree, but it's just that you get used to like being scrappy, as they say. You get used to not being paid what you're worth, so you make do with less. You get used to nobody valuing what you do, so therefore you devalue the work that you do, and the list goes on and on and on. So when did the seed get planted in your mind for you to say, oh, I understand how we can do good work, how we can be impactful and get paid for it?
That's such a good question, because it wasn't like an overnight thing. I came from Teach for America. I loved what I did so much. I enjoyed it. But I remember that second year, like when I was closing out my time in the Corps, I said, I'm too big. I am too big. And when people have to be called to that kind of work, like called to stay there and to love on like those kids in that capacity. And I said, I love teaching. I love helping. I love developing programs. I'm extremely creative. I can problem solve like no other. And I feel like I'm bursting at the seams in this classroom. And I feel like my patience is running thin because I feel there is other things inside of me. So it was that. And this is funny. So so some people may know this. So at church, they'll say different things. They'll say these different sayings. So they'll say something like, if you don't see it, create it. Like if it was like a connect group, if you don't see one, just start your own. So then that really stuck with me though, where I knew the churches are also nonprofits. And I also just started to step back and see how they operated in structure, and how good works were happening, but it wasn't by chance. It was a system in place. And then when I felt the Lord calling me to start my own nonprofit, I started calling a bunch of different people on how this experience would happen. So as I'm calling different businesses, I'm seeing that they're really only leaning into the work side, like filing your paperwork, doing taxes. But then when I got into the space, I was thinking, who helping me with how to literally like run my day to day? Like, how do I show up in board meetings to present information? How am I showing up with partners? There were things I was just learning. I was really addicted to, I think it's Reid Hoffman. He had something called, it was a podcast. And my husband and I used to listen to it a lot. And then Guy, he has the How This Is Built. It's on NPR.
Well, yeah, Guy Raz.
Yeah, Guy Raz. So I would listen to those often, and all of it sound the same. What I did in the classroom was startup work. I was a kindergarten teacher. That don't get no more startup than start up. Okay,
building your own lesson plans, your own I got
and
you.
They come in with it's a wide range of experience. You have kids whose parents have been working with them since they were like 3, who are coming in as eloquent as can be. And then you have kids that are like, hi, I love you, miss, but don't know how to write, really hold a pencil. And by the end of the year, I had one of the highest test scores in my grade, and I won Best New Teacher of the Year. And my kids were multiplying, writing paragraphs. Like, they were so set up for success. And I was bringing in partnerships. I was building programs within the classroom. And then I became a founding dance teacher the next year. And I was building programs in that capacity and bringing partnerships and residencies. And when I became a nonprofit leader, I just connected that all of this is the same. I worked in commercial real estate for a short amount of time. Mm-hmm. What even made my mind open up to coaching was one of our friends. I'm super interested in real estate and the whole process in it. So I wanted to see what that lifestyle was like with real estate investing. And he was a coach and he was making really good money. And I'm like, how is he teaching something that is it's so niche to people who want to know that thing? People are really paying to know information out of his head. Yeah. That concept was so crazy to me. And who gave him permission to do that? He just said, hey, I know this thing. And I remembered something my mom would say was, you don't need to be good at everything. You just need to be good at the thing you're already good at and get really good at that and keep getting better at it so you become an expert at it. And I understood programming. I understand nonprofit structures or the heart behind it. But what I understand also is I was able to see my mom and my dad operate in an entrepreneurial spirit and do things to make a means, but they didn't understand the structure of business and how to, right. It was just lack of information. And when I started paying to be in these spaces, joining these groups, going to these dinners, applying for these programs, and being in the room and being a sponge, I really started to see this is all the same. Yeah. It's all pretty much the same. Maybe I should lean into this. And then as that grew, what I started to see in my nonprofit startup coaching, a lot of my coaching was helping women believe that they first could do this thing. A lot of purpose puller. I should trademark that. And
she's a purpose puller, y'all. That's good.
A purpose puller. Don't take it. And I also was moving them into a space of ideation into execution. And those both things were happening. And a nonprofit is a business of a sort. So as I started to see that evolving and I'm doing this, and there's actually a framework behind what I do and there's social proof for this thing, I think the deeper thing is that I can help women execute entrepreneurship. I can help women step into business because I truly believe every woman has a business. Why? Okay, I'm gonna tell you my own philosophy behind it. I believe every woman has a business inside of them because when we think of an entrepreneur is creative, they are innovative, and they are executors. So when we read in the Bible, that's how I do everything. Is let's start there, that foundation. Genesis 1:1. God told us so many things about himself. In the beginning, he created the heavens and the earth. There's 3 things God really highlighted about himself. He starts things. So he starts things, which is what an entrepreneur does. He's extremely creative. In the beginning, he created. So he's extremely creative. The heavens and the earth. He's an executor. And the Bible says that he made us in his image. We are image bearers. If he starts things, he's creative and he's an executor. Does that not make me that as well? Is that not an entrepreneur? And an entrepreneur also understands that I don't need to always know how, I just need to know who. So if I know who, I don't always need to be the acting CEO. I may not really like people like that, but I can vision plan like no other. But I know that someone else can go and do the people stuff. So I can be in the back scenes with this entrepreneurial heart, and I can help this business grow. I can start this business. I can be a part of expanding it and scaling it and sustaining it. Every woman has that. Yeah. Every woman has that inside of them, from something you've lived, something you didn't see, something that you experienced. We all have something inside of us. It just takes someone to pull it out of you.
Absolutely. It sounds like what you're saying is twofold. The seed that was planted is more of a seeding process that helps you understand that the work that you do on a daily basis can help people, but you can also get paid for it. It started with your curiosity on how to evolve as a business owner. Like, how do I get the information that I want? And as you're investing in yourself, I'm sure your mind is saying, okay, these things are connecting the dots for me. I could see myself doing it, right? So it sounds like your evolution of investing in yourself is what ultimately kind of leads the way for your client to learn that she can invest in herself. And then also it sounds like you understanding that, one, individually, we as Black women, I'm a Black woman, we are all businesses, right? And how businesses can yield hundreds of thousands of dollars. You're understanding that the work that we do has value, and there's return on investment when you invest in yourself to allow someone to pull that out of you. You first learn it as yourself, and then you're realizing I can help other women do that and pull it out of themselves. So that's when you started to realize, okay, this thing is profitable.
Yeah. And you said something key is investing in yourself. How we, like Black women, we lead, we create, we take charge, we want to put it all on our backs, and we invest in everyone else's dream. And then at the end of the day, we are tapped out. Yeah. We are so tapped out. And that's not just exclusive to Black women, but we also understand statistically, we like die at a higher rate, silent deaths, like all of these things. Suicide rates are increasing. We see mental health it runs rampant for us, generationally, trauma. We see all that. We understand that. But that is also just a woman's nature, is to nurture. And a nurturer will always invest. And if I will always invest, shouldn't I be the first person I invest in?
Come on. You should, because as we invest in ourselves, we become abundant. We can pour into as many other cups that are around.
And now I'm overflowing. Because when I'm only investing in you, I'm leaking. I'm not overflowing. I'm a cup that has holes in it. And when I pour, it's also like it's deficient. But whenever I invest in myself first, and I nurture my process, and I nurture my mindset and my beliefs and everything that is tied to who I am, now I am overflowing. When I step into a room, I have so much to give that I'm not leaking because I took care of me first. Yes. It's understanding that to really grow, I get asked this all the time, which is so funny to me because I'm like, no, they'll say, did you go to school for this? You're so good at this. Do you have an MBA? Did you? I bet in school you were a star student. I'm like, ooh.
What do you tell them when they ask you that?
No, I was a dance major. I was a professional dancer. I was living in LA. The Lord was like, this is your gift, not your calling. I was lost. I was so wrapped up in the external. This is what everyone said. This is what is natural to me. I'm an entertainer. I'm skilled here. This has to be the thing I'm supposed to do for the rest of my life. Yeah. Not even realizing I had so much inside of me. And I think we get caught into this idea of this is the thing I'm supposed to do for the rest of my life. That whole mentality versus this is the thing I'm supposed to do right now. Because I stewarded being a nonprofit startup coach well. I invested in that. I poured into that. That as the vehicle shifted and I had to trade in that vehicle, I'm still getting to the next destination. But as I trade from a Toyota now to an Avalon, now we're in business and purpose coach. Yeah. And as that vehicle continues to get traded in, but the destination stays the same, I understand that if I believe that I am called to help women and people be all that God has called them to be, that can look in different mediums as it should. A book, a podcast, me being a keynote speaker, me coaching, me buying businesses and selling them. Like that doesn't have a cap because I understand who I really am designed to be. But it first understands, if I spend 24 hours with myself, 24/7, how I know everybody else more than I know me?
No, But you know what I thought you were going to say? If you spent so much money in your education as an entrepreneur, right? I'm thinking about the people who ask you, did you go to school for this?
Yeah, that's
And I don't
great.
want to shift the conversation in your mind, but the conversation is right here in front of me. Like someone's thinking that you went and got an MBA for it, but the world is changing. You invested in yourself monetarily and time, right? And the amount of money and the amount of time and the amount of like failures, frankly, that you've experienced, that is what licenses you to help the women as a business and purpose coach. So I'm curious, as your vision and as the scope of what you do evolves, can you explain some of the problems that like you are more excited to help with now as it grows, or like how it has actually shifted from like nonprofit startup coach to business? Like what do those specific journeys look like, and how did you create a framework to help these women through their journey?
Oh my gosh, you know what's funny? I created a challenge called Monetize Your Mission Challenge. And in this, it takes you through a 5-step, 5 days, and it is a framework that'll lead you into the right partners, people, and payouts. Mm-hmm. So as I was building that out, I'm seeing a theme here, right? And then I developed a 12-month mentorship program. And that value is so important because I understand how to strategically plan, but I don't write grants. So who does? Let me reach out to Alana Snipes. Okay, I don't teach people how to write books and how to really monetize their story in that way, but who does? Kyle King. I began to find the who's can help this thing expand. And as I started to move in a space when it came to business and nonprofit startup to business and purpose, I'm really excited because I saw a theme across the board is that people have a hard time executing. We sit on a lot of information, but implementation is very difficult. It's not a lack of information. We are always absorbing information. We do that on YouTube. After we get off this conversation now, probably an ad will pop up about something podcast or something else. Like, we're always absorbing information. It's implementation and execution. And that is really attacking somebody's belief system about themselves. Mm-hmm. I love doing that. I love seeing the moment switch when a client's eyes would be getting watery in a session thinking that they're just here for resources and tools. And I'm really picking their brain and how long have you sat on this? Mm-hmm. My whole life, but like, I know I can. So what makes this different? And we really dig into that. And then you're crying. Like, I just feel like I can't. Okay. So let's lean into that now, because we know when we get into that, when I tap into like attacking your belief system from a framework, because I'm my first client. I didn't believe in myself for a moment in time. I didn't believe it. I felt like everyone had to give me permission. I sat on information and did not move into implementation. I was my first client. So I built a framework around myself, around what moved me into execution. And then these 5 steps, I just built it around the acronym SERVE. That is what an entrepreneur does. If it's nonprofit, if it's for-profit, aren't we called to serve? So if I build this 5-step framework, that's easy. Sometimes execution also is so much information. Why is it 30 steps? Can you just give me 2? I just need 2, please.
Simplify it for me, please.
Simplify it, please. You just gave me too much. What is SOP? What is it? What is it even? What is that jargon? Like, taking it into like a really concise way that could be delivered. Because something I said before was when I go to a buffet, I'm overwhelmed. Mm-hmm. What is happening? There's so much food that I will overeat because we're excited. That's like the average person. But if I take it in chunks and I go and I get my plate, it's empty. That's the framework. and it's solid. It's there to hold something. And I put a little bit on my plate. I eat it, take it in, see how I feel, go back, get more. I increase my capacity for more because I'm also taking inventory. When you're being developed and I'm seeing my students or my clients grow, I'm not throwing so much information at them that just to make myself feel big. Oh, they don't know. So if I say these words, it's going to make them really need me more. And they're going to have to pay for this and upcharge this. You know what I'm talking about. Upcharge. Versus let me give them something that they can digest. The framework's already there. It's solid. So let me give them information they can digest. Do you understand what it means to actually take inventory and audit your circle? Who are the people who will support you? Take a survey of that. Send surveys out. That we can do overnight. And that small thing moves into a space of execution, because at the end of the 5 steps, now we actually moved into execution, expanding. That is E, expand. Now we've moved from just a seed. Now it has roots. Now it's got fruit. Now we've moved into a space of execution. So I'm really excited to just continue to do that and move people from the thoughts to now let's act.
I love it. I love it. I love it. Miss Cat in the building. She said taking inventory. So we got folks taking notes in the chat. Those of you guys who are still joining us, thank you so much for being here. I love it. I love it. I love it. Love the energy. I got one other question. Those of you guys who are still with us, I know y'all really, really appreciate the gems from Serve. Hopefully y'all were taking notes. And if you weren't, you can always replay this, take some notes, and apply the strategy that Jasmine literally just laid on you. But I got one question, because this is a work and play podcast. And if you guys are in Jasmine's close friends, or if you are just kind of following her every now and then, she's fun. She literally is just fun. Like, I haven't had a chance to just hang out with this girl, but I know I just got an inkling that says if we go out, there may or may not be a twerk around the corner.
What? So, it's in me. It's in me now.
Listen, so for those of you guys who are listening, I love the intellectual side of you. I love the business strategy side of you. I love your faith side of you, which I should have said first, really. And then I love the fun. Ooh, faith, fun. Did I say that? I don't think it was an acronym, but I love that side of you. So I'm curious, what keeps your life light during this time?
I just be enjoying life. I don't know if it's, I was in a grease fire when I was younger, and I have like 3rd-degree burns on the lower half of my body. So I think that was something to like live life to the fullest. One of my best friends got cancer. She has literally survived things I never thought people could. And seeing life up close, just also, that's just my personality. It's like my mom was raised in San Francisco, and she is the biggest ray of sunshine you will ever meet. You think I'm a light? No, that woman is Mary Poppins, for real. And I just truly will not accept someone being in my life as a sucker. Like, you know, like an energy drainer, like a vampire.
Yeah.
You go and you're all hot. You're like, yes, guys get dressed. Say you get dressed to go out, and that person is, hey, I don't never look like that on me. Okay, we can't go out because I'm not gonna be able to deal with this. Like, just really taking inventory. You have those people that maybe God's called you to love on them, right? But you're not gonna be the person I go out to dinner with. And I feel like as therapy, one, really categorizing the right things in my life. Because if we go to breakfast, like if we do like a little breakfast date, that's me getting to know you. Like, I'm getting to know you and seeing like, but if we're vibing, okay, now breakfast, I don't feel so like we just got a Danish and a little tea. Okay, cool, but we're vibing. And then lunch is like, we getting kind of cozy now. We kind of like, this is fun. And I'm not big on time. Like, if it's one time we met and we clicked, like we locked in. So lunch is like, okay, this is getting good. But dinner, no, we going a little bit. And I just really
shoulders. I love it.
I just really enjoy smiling. I enjoy laughing. I let myself laugh as loud as I want. Yeah. I let myself take up space. I think you said that to me, and that was like game changer to me.
I say it all the time.
To take up space.
I say it all the time. We shrink ourselves. I don't care if we got 30 seconds. I'm gonna take a 60 seconds. I mean, listen.
Why can't I? Who said I can't? If I want to change my hair color, maybe I'm blonde today, I may be red tomorrow.
Mm-hmm.
Like, just really fully enjoying life and taking up space. I really feel like me being okay with taking up space.
Yeah.
And truly, everybody should take up space because you are bigger than your environment. That's why you're there. You are called to increase the capacity there. You are bigger than your thoughts right now. You are bigger than the environment and the situations you are in. You are called to take up space.
Yes.
Stop that shrinking back and being coy and passive aggressive. Truly attack the thing that God has for you. Go into it. The joy will be present because naturally, yes, I'm high spirited. I'm bubbly, but I'm going to enjoy life. Listen, we about to go to Cabo on Monday.
Ooh.
You know, my close friend, I gotta add you to my close friends because I'm going to enjoy life.
Yeah.
That's what God He put me here to be light and salt. So that don't mean to give me warrant to act a fool. Now, there's also like boundaries. You know, we have those in the place. Use wisdom. But I'm just truly going to enjoy life. Like if there's music playing, my mom does that. If we're out and she likes a song, she'll stand up and just start dancing. And as a kid, I used to get so embarrassed. I'd be like, oh my gosh, why she just sit down?
And now you do it.
Now I'm her.
I love it. In the best way, right? Oh, I love it. I love the growth. I love it. Let me see if I can read the comment. I'm gonna have to lean in on this one. Leave the negative energy at the door. If I say how you doing and your response is always negative, I'm hanging up. Listen, so feeling exactly what you said, those energy drainers, those energy vampires. So those of you guys who are still tuning in, y'all already know, like Jasmine gonna drop some gems. She gonna drop some gems. She gonna drop some love. She gonna drop some honesty, and she gonna drop a little bit of sunshine. So, before we get out of here, I would love for you to just drop us with one word of wisdom for us to close out. As folks are making their transition, right, and people are really trying to figure out how do they live their best self, how do they live their life to the fullest. What's one step or one piece of wisdom that you would share so that they can take their next step?
Make a decision. Make a decision. Who are you going to show up as? Who are you going to serve? And I don't mean like that, like as like a community. Who are you going to serve like in your life? Is it going to be money or is it going to be God? Is it going to be people's acceptance or is it going to be you looking in the mirror and actually being able to embrace who you are? Make a decision daily that this is going to be a day that I choose joy. This is going to be a day that I take up space. Make a choice, make a decision because life is about choices and there's consequences for every choice that we make, positive or negative. But make a decision. If it's business, make a decision that today I'm just going to, you know what? Also, and make a decision, dream out loud. Stop that. I got a dream. I keep it in. People going to crap on it. What is their words going to do to what is going to happen?
Nothing.
Of course, you're going to have naysayers because what God's asking you to do has never been done. Eyes have not seen and ears have not heard. What God is asking you to do, you may have never seen someone close to you do that. People are going to say it and they love you. The thing is, it'd be the people that love you that will say, hey, I think you should maybe have a different approach. I think you should, because they love you, but also understand that they don't see what God has given you. They don't see what God has given me, you know? And make a decision and dream out loud. When you go into spaces, you never know who God put there to be an answer. There are so many things in my life, especially in these past 6 months, that I was praying for, and I didn't even know how they were going to happen. The pandemic, all of these things, like getting adjusted back into the city, all of that stuff. And I just was dreaming out loud. I would maybe say out loud, you know, y'all, I want to be a keynote speaker. I'm not talking about like, I want to be main stage with it. And people take an inventory. They text me offline. Hey, actually, there's a conference coming up. I want you to reach out to this woman. You never know. I made a decision to dream out loud. That's your word.
There you go, y'all.
Out loud.
Drop some mic. Go ahead and drop your mic. Y'all, thank y'all for being here. Matter of fact, you're welcome. You're welcome that I got to bring this lovely woman to you guys. Thank y'all for joining, though. I really do appreciate y'all's energy, and I appreciate you, Jasmine. Until next time, though, we will see y'all on the other side. Y'all be great. Do what you got to do. Peace out.